computer. Okay. You want me to put up the, I'll put up the agenda so people have it in front of them?
Sure. That's a very good idea. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to one of our meetings, or one of our board meetings. The date is March 31st, 2022. The time is approximately 6 minutes after 6 p.m. Before we proceed to conduct the meeting, we want to make sure that we have a quorum of the people present, of the board members. Can we please take a roll call and just state your name, and so that this way we can make sure that we do have a quorum. So who wants to go first?
Okay, I will. Carol
Okay.
Reagan.
That's one. And who's next?
Zach Owens.
Okay, that's two. Who's next?
John Perricone, Borough President's Office.
Okay, John, that's three. Who else?
James Mongeluso, Office of New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander.
Okay, James, that's four. Who else? Do we have anyone else?
Yeah, Henry Yam is on.
Okay, but I don't hear him. Are you able to see him?
His mic is muted. Henry, can you come off mic for roll call? Henry? Okay.
Are you able to see his face?
No, his video is off, so he may be away from his desk, away from the computer.
Okay, and you said there was a sixth person.
Yourself.
Yeah.
And here comes Charlene, and Charlene is coming on.
Okay. Hey, Charlene, are you connected?
Her audio's connecting now, so she's gonna give her probably another 30 seconds, and she'll be connected. I'll tell you when she's connected.
Okay.
Oh, she's connected now. Welcome, Charlene.
Hey, Charlene, can you hear us?
Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Sorry I'm late.
Okay.
Good evening.
Yes, no, that's fine. So Charlene is the sixth person, and I believe that there is a seventh person. Before we proceed any further, I want to apologize to everyone for conducting the meeting in this fashion. I was hoping to be either in my office or in my home to be able to do it virtually, but unfortunately, I had a client who got arrested, so I'm at the courthouse right now, and I'm forced to conduct the meeting from the courthouse. So hopefully, I'm not going to inconvenience too many people as a result, but I can hear you, and hopefully you can hear me. Okay, it appears that based upon the roll call that we do have a quorum of the members of the board present. So now the first order of business is going to be to adopt the minutes from the December 16th meeting that we have, the board meeting. Is there a motion on the floor to adopt those minutes?
I adopt those minutes.
Okay, is there a motion to second that?
I'll second. This is Zach.
Okay, Zach. Is there anyone opposed to adopting the minutes from the December 16th board meeting that we had? Being that there's no opposition to adopting those minutes, the motion has passed. Now, the third order of business is going to be with respect to board member participation. It's my understanding that we're going to need some board members to hopefully volunteer to participate in the following committees. One, the audit committee. We have a vacancy in the audit committee. Number two is we have, with respect to the nominating committee, we don't have anyone who's currently a member of the nominating committee, and we're going to need 3 people for that committee. And also the executive committee, we have 1 vacancy with respect to the executive committee. So first and foremost, with respect to the audit committee and the vacancy that we have, Is there anyone who would like to participate to become a member of the audit committee, which already includes John Perricone and Zach Owens? Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to participate in that committee?
What are the duties of the audit committee?
Glenn, can you fill us in?
Sure. So the audit committee basically oversees the proposal that goes out and the response back. And we've had this particular auditor for 2 years now. So usually after 3 years, we can recycle and put out a request for proposal. We can actually do it this year if the audit team would like to do that. It's really up to the audit team, and so they oversee the process of hiring the auditor for that particular period of time for that audit, and they then review the results of the audit when the audit is done, and then they bring it to the general board for voting, which has to be done before the December 31st deadline. So that's basically what it is. So it's maybe 2 or 3 meetings at the most, and it's not too taxing usually, and the auditor actually leads the report. So the report is, distributed prior to the review, and then the auditors actually walk us through the committee through the various information, and of course the audit team gets to ask any questions that they may have and any follow-up items that are needed.
So the person who asked the question, is there any interest in joining that committee?
Yes, I'll join.
Okay. All right, that would be Carol.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, ready? Okay.
Now,
Now,
now let me just point of order. So Zach, Carol can be both on the finance and the audit, or just want to make sure.
So there's nothing explicitly that excludes a member from serving on both committees, but ideally the best practice is to have separate members from the finance and audit committee, the only exception being SBS, because the audit committee
Right.
is reviewing the actions the finance committee has taken.
Gotcha.
But absent another member, audit committee needs quorum. So
Right.
there's no other
So far.
takers.
If someone else would like the position, I'd be very glad to to offer it to them.
Well, point of order. We actually, the audit committee won't meet until after July 1st at this point in time. So we still have time to select that.
Okay.
So we'll keep you in the parking lot around that, and
Right, in abeyance.
and if nobody else jumps in, then we'll
Okay.
we'll activate you. Okay.
Okay. Sounds
We'll
fine.
keep you afloat.
It's a
So
good suggestion.
Yes. So the next order of business, I mean, not the next order of business. The next committee that we should be focusing on is obviously the nominating committee. Is there any interest in anyone joining the nominating committee? And I don't think that there would be any conflict with someone belonging to the nominating committee as well as some of the other committees. Is that correct, Zach?
That's correct.
That is correct. Yes.
And the nominating committee will just offer names of people that
Yes.
That they think
Basically,
that-
you'll look to recruit any, if any members are not coming back on the board. So this happens at the annual meeting. So the nominating committee prepares the slate, the nominating slate for the new, for the next year. However, given our consolidation, I'm not sure if how that'll actually take place. So Zach will
Right.
probably be able to give us an update on that as well. But normally what takes place is that the nominating committee will, scour the property owners and find out who would like to join the board, and or we may need a slot for one of the business slots as well.
Okay. Now, I guess since we're not sure as to when the consolidation is going to take effect, so I assume your suggestion is maybe we might want to wait a bit before we start appointing people to the nominating committee, or should we go ahead and try to do that? Now, assuming that the consolidation is not going to take effect for a few months, under normal circumstances, when would have been the first meeting of the nominating committee?
Normally, the nominating committee meets probably after July in preparation, because traditionally we've had the annual meeting in December. However, if we decide to make it earlier than that, the nominating committee needs to be active at least 2 months prior to whenever the annual meeting is going to take place.
Okay, so that would be around the end of April then, correct? So we would need to find people by the end of April. That would be May and June, because you said they meet in July.
Well, July. Well, no. Let me restate it. So, if we're gonna meet in December, if we're gonna set the date for the annual meeting in December, then we should start in September, looking around September, October, in preparation for that annual meeting. If we decide to move that annual meeting to an earlier period of time, whatever that date is, 2 months prior to that is when the nominating committee needs to be active.
Okay, so we have some time, basically.
We do.
Correct.
We do have some time.
Okay. So the last one is the vacancy on the executive committee.
Right. So
Okay.
so currently we have a board chair, we have the treasurer, and we have a secretary. We do not have a vice chair. So that is the vacant. We don't have to have a vice chair, but it's best practices to have 4 members, so that if one is absent or whatever, not able to make the meeting, you can still get the executive information, or
Okay.
decision making.
And how soon? And how soon do we need to fill that vacancy?
We could actually leave it as is. It's a recommendation. I don't think it's a requirement. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to fill the executive officer positions sooner rather than later. And I know we just had an annual meeting, but maybe this could be, Glenn, to your point, an opportunity to see if there's interested board members to serve as the vice chair. And then by virtue of being vice chair, they'll be on the executive committee. So I think it makes sense to ask around, because there's a lot of responsibility there with being a vice chair. So people should think about it before they volunteer.
All right, fair enough. Are there any further questions with respect to those committees? Okay, if I see no show of hands, so I guess the next order of business will be the executive director updates.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So one of the things, so the beautification committee continues to meet and to look over any updates that we might have. One of the things that we looked at and were able to get an estimated cost about streetlights would cost us in excess of $1 million. So if we were to get the fancy streetlights that we're looking to upgrade to, we received a letter from DOT to stating that. So we'll continue to look at tree guards, mouse pads, staple removers, and if anybody else has any ideas, please contact Alex or myself with any ideas around having a beautification projects.
Okay, may I interrupt 1 second, Glenn?
Sure.
Okay, just for the benefit of some of the people who are not aware, some people on the board and some people have approached us and they thought it would be a good idea, quite possibly, as a way of beautifying the area and maybe discourage and people from loitering and maybe selling drugs, or possibly getting the New York City Police Department to take a greater. So some suggestions were made, quite possibly, to have these beautiful lights that we see in other places. I'm quite familiar with the Bronx. I'm in the Bronx quite often. I see that they have these beautiful lights on the Grand Concourse, for example. They also have them near the courthouse in the Bronx. And we made some inquiries as to how much that would cost if we wanted to have that here as well. We also contacted the Department of Transportation, made some inquiries as to how much it would cost and who would be responsible for funding it. And it turns out that it's quite excessive. It's about $1 million to do. Glenn, is it possible to show people on your screen what those lights are that we're talking about?
Yes, hold on.
Okay,
Let me do a little maneuvering.
sure. I mean, the lights are beautiful, but it'd be a good idea for some people to have an idea what they look like. And we're talking about essentially, I guess, the area of Sutphin Boulevard, all the way down to, I guess, the Long Island Railroad, and possibly maybe if we got permission to go 1 or 2 blocks further than that.
Yes, that is what we were looking at.
But wasn't the cost excessive? So,
Yes, it is excessive, but we're hoping to see how we would be able to possibly get somebody to sponsor it. Maybe the department, because I mean, it's been done in other areas. You clearly have it in the Bronx. You clearly have it in Brooklyn. And being that Sutphin Boulevard is one of the major arteries that we have in New York City, and it's named after a great man, Mr. Sutphin, because remember when they were trying to change the name Sutphin Boulevard, and some of us did some background check and see how this great man that he was named after, how he was giving no interest loans to people to allow the areas to develop. I mean, look, we have the Long Island Railroad, we have 2 courthouses in that area. And we have a whole bunch of train stations. So we thought it might be a good idea to try to beautify that area and kind of like bring it up to date, so to speak. So, Glenn, okay, so can you walk us through as to what you're talking about in terms of the lights and, the type of lights that we could have in the area? But you're right, Carol, it is excessive, and maybe DOT can help us out.
So one of the things that DOT did tell us is that it can be funded by either city council or state senators assembly. So state legislators or city legislators could help sponsor that as well as the borough president. So the 2 specifically that we were looking at is the one I'm circling now, and then the second one was a little bit further out, but again, much nicer than the ones that are appearing on Jamaica Avenue right now, and it was again.
didn't they say that you were limited to a certain design?
Yes, we were.
Well, that's what they told us. But then our investigation revealed that, hey, for example, on the streets in the Bronx, for example, which is an area that I'm quite familiar with, near the courthouse in the Bronx, you do have those silver ones that they wanted us to have in that area. But there's 161st Street, even though the side streets has the silver ones, 161st Street has the lights that are comparable to the ones that we're seeing. And the
Mhm.
Grand Concourse, which is more or less similar to Jamaica Avenue, basically, in terms of not Jamaica Avenue, Sutphin Boulevard, in terms of a major thoroughfare and everything. They have the same type of lights that we're interested in. So one of the things Glenn told them is, how is it that they can have it in the Bronx and we don't have it over here? And which is when they disclosed to us that, hey, by the way, if city council were to sponsor it, obviously it could be done. Am I correct, Glenn?
That's correct. That is
Yeah.
correct.
May I
And
say
they are,
something?
sure.
Go ahead,
I
Ms.
don't
Smith.
think we are paying for these slights. We're paying for it out of our budget, right?
Well,
We don't have enough in our budget to do it.
Right.
I mean, well, we don't have enough. And coming down Sutton Boulevard, you have two council members that sponsor part of it. You have Williams and you have Councilman Jim Genario. So have a conversation with them
Sure.
and see how much well, I'll say one of them are new, but Councilman Jim Genario is not new to the
right.
council.
And
And
we can,
we can ask the Long Island Railroad.
okay, that's not a bad idea. You're right. I mean, to put
Okay,
some pressure on them.
let them give something back to the community. Help, give something back.
Or at least have a voice that could be heard and,
Yes.
have somebody to contact. Oh, sure. I think that's a very good idea.
Well,
Okay.
let me bring this up. I was contacted by Port Authority, and they wanted to find out what it would take to become an active member of the board. And what I had told them is that because they don't pay an assessment, was one of the reasons why they were asked to not be on the board. So, Zach, if the Port Authority were to contribute to lighting, I know it's not necessarily an assessment. Is that something that that they would be able to then come on the board, or do they have to have an assessment fee associated in order to come on the board?
We can take a closer look at it, but really the law just states the ownership of the actual property. So we can take a closer look at that and use that as potential leverage. There's up until recently, federal buildings, it was similar with them, right? They would, they owned property, but the General Services Administration, which administers a lot of federal properties, had a good neighbor policy. So they would still contribute an assessment, even though legally they didn't have to pay anything. So it's probably worth the conversation.
Okay.
Well, it's aside from the fact that they won't be paying, let's say, assuming for the sake of argument, there is no way that they can be forced to pay an assessment. Can they become a non-voting member just so that they can be there and we can engage them in conversation and
Yes.
find ways that they can help us? So,
Yes.
okay. So Glenn, maybe that's not a bad idea. Tell them that they could become non-voting members and they can certainly participate and they'll be aware of what we would like to do. And maybe they'll have some ideas on how we can go about accomplishing it.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to clarify too, the DOT already sent back a written quote of how much it would cost, right?
Yes.
Hey, Glenn,
An
yes.
estimate.
Okay.
An estimate. Yes.
Yeah, if you can share that, I think with, I saw Henry just put in the chat some comments, but share it with all the government representatives because we're in the process of the capital budget. And so if that information will just be good to have if the opportunity's there, because these conversations are happening pretty quickly.
Okay.
Hey, Glenn, with respect to the tree guards, who would be responsible for that?
That would be ours. So
Okay,
that would
so
come out of our budget.
okay, all right, okay, not a problem. Okay, go ahead. Do you have anything else to tell us, Glenn, about your update?
Sorry, I had
Yes,
another question on the lighting.
Sure.
Sorry. The
Yeah. go ahead.
is it just the replacement of the existing luminaires, or are you guys looking to add additional luminaires
Just a replacement of the current ones
with the attractive
with the attractive.
Exactly.
standard poles? Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
I was gonna
okay,
say,
yeah.
in relation to that, with the Port Authority, I don't think they're legally able to assist with funding something like that because I don't think they're legally allowed to spend money on things that are off airport property or off their own property. So I know there was some issues with, around where I live in East Elmhurst because of the LaGuardia redevelopment. There were a lot of asks about them contributing money to redevelopment or beautification of certain areas that were impacted by the construction. There were a bunch of homes that were even damaged by construction related incidents. Although, they don't claim responsibility for it, but some people were asking for them to do beautification projects. But basically what came back is that they can't spend money off airport. I think there's something about the way the state has chartered them as an authority that doesn't allow that to happen.
But and I understand, but the most important thing I would think is to invite them to become participants of our board, even though they don't vote, so that they can give us some ideas as to what could be accomplished, obviously without their contributions or anything like that, because the objective is to beautify the area as much as we possibly can. And especially if we end up consolidating with the other bids, to really make South Jamaica look really nice. Glenn, do you have anything else to tell us?
I will follow up with that with the Port Authority and have some more conversations
Sure.
about that. The other thing I wanted to, well, Port Authority has actually reauthorized or authorized the Air Train Jazz Festival concerts that were put on hold in 2020. So we're able to reestablish the schedule from March of 2020, and we're looking to possibly start that if we can get all the paperwork that's needed by next week Thursday, and continue the concert series from 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursday nights, which is going to be two 45-minute sets with a 20-minute break in between, and that would be performed on the second floor of the air train, not too far from the air bar and the snack area on the second floor. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that we were aware of. We've got funding from 2020 and 2021 that we've budgeted to pay for the concerts, and so just wanted to let the board know, and if there were no objections, to go ahead and pursue that.
Okay. Do we need to take a formal vote for that? Zach, do we need that?
I think it was already
Probably.
allocated in the budget, right,
It was,
Glenn?
Okay.
yes, it was already it was previously allocated, and of course because of the pandemic we weren't able to utilize it. So
Yeah, so if there's no objection, since it's been previously allocated.
Okay, sure. Hey, Glenn, are we also going to be doing, I think on Fridays in front of the courthouses, little performances, like for about around lunchtime, the way you've had it in the past? Are we going to be able to do that this year?
well, looking forward, we'll have to put that in next year's budget. So
Okay.
so one of the things that I wanted to establish is that we have a finance meeting so we can go over the finances and make sure that we've got a budget for next year, and that would come out of next year's budget, since it will be after July 1st. So
Okay.
we can pursue that in the finance meeting and then bring it to the board before the June meeting, so that we can send in the next year's fiscal budget to SBS by the June 30th.
Now, what about, you remember when Robin, in one of the meetings, Robin talked about since we already have a fall festival, the possibility of a spring festival, do you think that's ever going to take shape? Take shape?
Well, one of the holdups with that is having the permits, because remember, we're shutting off all the bus routes and for
Okay.
that whole day. And so getting
Mhm.
permits may be a little difficult to do. I know that there was a moratorium just prior to 2020 from the city in terms of not allocating any additional street festivals. Now they do have um, weekend walks that they were looking at, which are similar, um, but I'm not sure if weekend walks actually shut down the number of bus schedules that Sutphin Boulevard would be maintaining, because we've got quite a few buses that are coming through there that would be impacted by closing the street.
Oh,
So that's something I can still look into that, because there's still some
sure.
conversations about the weekend walks, but I would not. Uh, I'm not overly optimistic that that could happen. Um, Also, we would have to then have probably.
May I say something, please? If you
Sure,
were
sure.
going to, anybody who's doing a festival would have to have put their application in December of last year.
Okay.
So okay.
I guess that's something that we would look to consider for next year, I guess.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
unless
okay.
unless they change the rules.
Okay.
Right.
That's good to know.
But in addition to that, they did have a moratorium on them, from what I understood as well. But again, we can still pursue it. We can take a look at it.
Yes, you
I
may.
understand. Sure.
Before we move on to that, off the Air Train Jazz concerts, I wanted to, um, because they have a 20-minute break in between the two sets, I was actually looking into the possibility of doing some kind of performances in between. There are a couple, I've been approached by a couple comedians, and so we might be able to do some stand up in between the two jazz sets. So that's something that I'm going to take a look at and see if that's possible. And at this point in time, we're not looking at funding them. This would be pro bono, um, but it would add to the concert series that we have in place. In addition to that, I also wanted to mention that we will be meeting with the Con Edison. So the downtown bids, all three of us are going to have a walkthrough with Con Edison and sanitation, and just to make sure that we're in compliance. There's been a lot of conversation about the street street holiday lights, and part of that conversation was that Con Edison had some issues, or some of the bids had some issues in that we were supposed to be paying Con Edison for the electricity for those holiday lights, and Con Ed has never actually um, asked for or billed us for that. So there's some conversation with all the bids in the city in terms of, what does Con Ed need, and are they doing that at this point in time? And just to go over any possible violations that may be present on the street. Same thing with sanitation. The sanitation walkthrough to make sure that there are no obvious violations. There have been a few city ordinance that have been updated, but just want to make sure that we're compliant and in good.
May I ask the question, please?
Yes, please.
Did Con Edison send anything in writing to the bids?
No, the contract from the holiday light vendor basically stated that that there would be a additional charge for the lighting from Con Ed. So that didn't happen. Of course, we don't want to shake up the tree too much, but we
What is did Con Edison approach the contractor
no,
that installs the lights?
no, no.
Well, why did he make that statement?
Well, that's part of the vending contract states that there will be a billing from Con Ed, but I don't think Con Ed has either taken the time or figured out how to do that. And from what I understand from the other bids across the city, they have not consistently done that for any of the bids, or one or two of the bids they might have done that for, but they've been, that it's been a pass, and so I just wanted to um, let the board know that that might be a consideration going forward. But the idea of having the walkthrough with Con Ed is to make sure that we don't have any street violations at this point in time. And same thing with sanitation. If there are any.
Well, I think Con Edison should send something to small business services if which the bids are under the small business services. Am I correct?
Yes,
Well, I think they should have to send something to small business services if this is what Con Edison requesting, and then come out, the bids are gonna have to pay it to the contractor that installs the lighting. That's gonna be part of their bill included in that.
SBS is actually on top of the conversation, so
Right, okay,
we've been having meetings, the open call meetings. That's been one of the discussions that have come up, and and so we're looking at subgroups. Also, the bid association is also looking into it. We didn't want to necessarily stir, shake the tree
right,
around Con Ed to have them now start to bill us, if they were comfortable with not billing us around it. But again, the idea of having the walkthrough with Con Ed is to make sure that there are no violations or
right.
anything that are,
Mhm.
that would cause harm to anybody in the district. So
And
so
Glenn,
yes, go ahead.
sorry, the walkthrough you're having, is it actually Con Ed or is it the city DOT?
There was talk about both, and so DOT
Okay.
we're looking at DOT as well as Con Ed. Now they may be together. We hadn't finished the coordination in terms of are they both coming out, because the truth is both of them really need to work hand in hand if they're going to do a walkthrough, to um, look at the electricity and the responsibility of DOT as well, with Con Ed.
Right. Yeah, and I think Miss Reddick, to your questions, it was where a lot of the confusion has come in that Glenn was referencing was about DOT's requirements for installing holiday lighting. One of which is having a open account with Con Ed so that they know who to bill the lighting charge to. Now, my understanding from Con Ed's perspective is that's more work for them and they don't want to do that. So there's a bit of friction between DOT and Con Ed, but I think what's caused a lot of issues as well is the DOT is now enforcing a lot of the standard safety requirements, and the lighting vendor didn't let a lot of bids know in a timely manner. And this includes updating the fuse for the lighting. And the fuse is, with inflation has gone up substantially in price. So some bids are looking at price tags of like $20,000 to $30,000 to update these fuses. So it's something that's top of mind, and we've been working with the bid association to try to figure out a resolution here, because safety is
Oh,
important.
okay.
But we also want to make sure that the holidays are cheery come December.
Yes, and I hope Jamaica Avenue will have holidays lighting this year.
Agreed.
Yes.
And
Okay.
if they don't need a sponsor, I hope they started looking now, and I would tell them so. Because it's unbelievable. Jamaica Avenue with no holiday lightings?
And that would start from where? From the area of the 103rd precinct and walk its way all the way down to Sutphin, correct?
Correct.
From Sutphin Boulevard down to 169.
Oh, it doesn't go, yeah, 169, I think that's where the 103rd
Right.
precinct is.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Glenn, do you have anything else to bring to our attention?
The only thing I wanted to let you know, I did include the expenditures for the year to date, and I didn't know if there were any questions. I know that we'll probably go into more detail when we have the finance meeting that's coming up, but if anyone had any questions, I just wanted to determine if there are any questions around that.
Are there any questions from anyone?
No questions. I didn't get a chance to review it. So, because I got it today. So, I don't have any questions right now. I'll contact you if I do, Glenn.
Okay, and
No,
and
Yes.
and know that we'll be setting up a finance meeting in the next in April-May timeframe, so that we can go over the year-to-date expenses and then begin to look at whatever budgetary needs that we have for next year.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And then I guess the last question or comment I have is if Zach can give us an update on the consolidation, because I'm not sure where we are in the process in terms of city council voting on it and so forth.
Yeah, I actually had 3 updates for you, but I can save the last 2 for the end of the meeting.
Okay.
One of which was a quick update on the consolidation effort. So in terms of the status of it, at least where we've been in the past few months, is that the plan went before the City Plan Commission on February 16th, and the City Plan Commission unanimously approved it. And at that point, it goes to City Council. And just last week, the City Council moved to establish a public hearing date, which will be April 7th at 10 a.m. in City Hall. And I don't believe at this point there's going to be a Zoom link to log in, but I will double check that and share that information with the board. But if you want to provide public testimony, that will be an opportunity to do so. And there's also an opportunity to provide written testimony, and I can share that link. Last Friday, there were about 4,000 pieces of mail that went out. All the property owners and tenants should have received a copy of this letter. It was essentially notifying the community that April 7th is going to be the hearing date. And it also provides an opportunity for property owners to object to the bid consolidation if they wish to do so. They have 30 days after April 7th to file an objection with the city clerk. The letter states the process on how to do that. If 51% of property owners oppose, the bids cannot be consolidated or formed. So that's on April 7th. And then the vote will actually take place most likely in late May or early June. That's contingent on the legislative calendar, but there has to be a minimum of 60 days that passes. So that's how we get to late May. And I'll keep the board aware of when that vote will take place. So the immediate next action is going to be April 7th, 10 a.m. And Glenn, I can share those details with you if you can circulate that to the board.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Great. Well, I don't have anything else. So Zach, I guess you can go with the 2 updates, the 2 additional updates that you had.
The other one was just a quick FYI. So the mayor's team, City Hall, 2 weeks ago released the economic development blueprint for the city's recovery. And one thing that was in there that I thought the board would be of interest, given a lot of the quality of life issues in downtown Jamaica, is the codification and establishment of an interagency task force with bids to focus specifically on public safety and quality of life issues. So these task forces will be arranged around business districts. Downtown Jamaica will be a part of this, and it's going to be co-led by the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, the Deputy Mayor of Economic Development, and the Deputy Mayor of Operations, with the specific task of interagency coordination and to resolve a lot of the quality of life issues that inhibit business growth and business investment. That is, I've seen a draft of that proposal being put together, but that should be coming, firming up in the next few weeks or so. So Glenn, I'll keep you aware as more information, you, Derek, and Jen, and the community board and others will be involved in that process to identify the issues and challenges that you're facing.
Zach, you said the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Deputy Mayor of Operations. Was there a third?
Yeah, the Deputy Mayor of Economic Development.
Economic Development. Okay, great. Thank you.
And then the other related to the conversation about festivals and weekend walks and Alex's question earlier. So there was, the weekend walk program no longer exists. The weekend walk program allowed community organizations to close down the streets for additional public space and allow businesses to move outdoors. That program was replaced by Open Streets, but one of the challenges with Open Streets is it requires a certain level of frequency and commitment to do over again. So in the meantime, we worked with City Hall to create another permit, event permit, a business district multi-block event permit. So if there is interest in closing down the street and programming it, you can work with SBS and we'll work with City Hall to do that. The caveat being you cannot have outside vendors sell. So that's the difference between a street fair versus this permit. And we haven't been promising any funding to community organizations on that, but it has been brought to our attention, if you are willing to commit to at least 2 events, there might be funding available from DOT, and we can work with Glenn, if there's any interest, we can work with DOT on that to get you some funding to do if you're interested.
Making some notes on that. Okay, great. Thank you.
That's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Do you have anything else for us, Glenn?
I do not.
Okay, so the next order of business would be number 5, Roman numeral 5, which is board meeting schedule. So it's my understanding that we have to have a finance meeting before June. Is that, and also we also need to have a board meeting, I think before that time as well, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. What would you propose as the next date for us to have a board meeting? Tentatively, we're talking about late April or late May?
Late.
What do you think, Zach?
Late May, I'm thinking. Go ahead,
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, that seems like it makes sense.
Okay, so
Late May, early June.
okay, all right. So that would be for the board meeting. Okay, the finance meeting, you said that finance was going to meet within the next 2 months?
Yeah, I'm thinking we can maybe have an early one in April, late April, early May.
I would say possibly late April, early May. What do you think, Charlene?
I
'Cause that's-
think the 3rd week in April should be okay, the week of the 18th.
Okay, how about if we push it a little, because that's like income tax week and so on. Why don't we push it to like the 30th? Is that a good compromise?
I can't do that weekend, sorry.
Okay,
I
right,
can't
so-
do after, yeah, I'm
okay,
away for 2 weeks, so
okay. So you're back
it'll
in
have
early
to
May.
it'll have to
guess-
be in April.
Okay,
'Cause
all right, I mean,
we need to go through the financials and everything. I'm not sure how many meetings, it's gonna take. So
Yeah, no, because I mean, in the past, it's
yeah,
taking a number of me. So
exactly.
why don't we start it around that time, Glenn? And then if
Okay.
we need some additional time, we'll go from there. Okay?
Okay. So what was that date,
All right.
Charlene? You said April what?
I said the week of the 18th.
18th. Okay. All right. So we'll look to schedule something. I'll push something in the next
Okay.
week or so.
Well, my availability, just so you know, I'm no longer available, after 5. So
Okay.
if we can possibly have it, on a morning,
Okay.
I can work it into my schedule.
Okay.
Okay. Mornings could be
Or
tough, but
I
I'll see.
can possibly do a Thursday after 5, but it's very tough.
Okay, so whatever, if it's a Thursday that you're available after 5, then we'll make sure we select the Thursday. Okay,
Okay.
fair enough? All right, no problem. Okay,
I'll shoot you some dates, Charlene, and then we'll work out with your schedule and then make it available to the rest of the finance team. Okay.
now, with respect to everything that now moving on to Roman numeral 6, with respect to everything that we've heard tonight, or some questions that you might not have had that were raised or answers, is there anyone who wished to be given the floor to bring up any questions or any concerns that they might have at this time? Any questions from anyone?
No.
Okay, so I guess the last order of business would then be Roman numeral 7, which has to do with the adjournment for until the next time that we meet. Okay, is there a motion on the floor for us to adjourn this meeting?
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Okay,
I'll
is
second
there a
it.
motion? A second. Is there anyone opposed to us adjourning this, to the motion that has been made to adjourn this meeting? Okay, let the record reflect that no one has opposed the motion to adjourn the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you everyone for having
Thank you.
participating in this
Okay.
meeting. You're quite welcome. And as I said before, I apologize for not having been in a position where, I could participate with my computer as opposed to with my phone, but I think everything went well. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay, if you have any questions or any suggestions, feel free to bring it up to either myself or to Glenn or any other members of the board and so on. Okay, everyone be safe. Have a good night. And until we see each other again the next time or sooner.
Thanks,
Okay.
Alex.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Hey Glenn,
Yeah.
could you send me the transcript and the stuff when you get a chance?
Yeah. Let me
Oh.
turn off the recording. What happened here? Stop the recording. What happened? It didn't stop.